Hello to all you beautiful souls out there. Thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome to Lupita on Fire. I am Lupita. Just in case you are coming across me for the first time, I am a licensed psychotherapist, confidence coach, motivational speaker, DJ, single mom, blah, 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 yada, yada. You can keep going with the roles that I play, right? And this podcast is about my adventures in wellness, just like the caption describes. And a little bit about myself before I introduce my amazing and awesome guest. My personal story includes rape, molestation, lots of trauma, domestic violence, things like that during my childhood, to where I experienced this as an adult again. And this podcast is to help others be inspired and motivated and feel encouraged by someone that might have a similar story to that, and really believe in themselves and start living and stepping into their greatness. Today, I am going to be talking about old stories. But first, I want to introduce my very first guest. I'm so excited to talk with him live. Um, he is a very, very good friend of mine. I love him so much. It's making me emotional, just like even to introduce him, because I freaking love him so much. He is also a coach. He is a mindfulness coach and an energy healer. So Arjuna Tierney, did I say your last name correctly?
Yeah, you got it.
Awesome. Thanks. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? I know, but they don't, right?
Yeah. Sure. So as you said, my name's Arjuna Tierney. I am currently over in Istanbul at the moment, traveling. And so I used to live in the UK and now I spend a lot of time in Spain. I guess we connected because also we've shared some of kind of traumas in our life that have revolved around kind of rape, abuse. And we are amazing survivors of that and thrivers, not only survivors, we're thrivers of that. And
Yes.
my story very much centers around a lot of my mental health issues, suicide attempts, kind of domestic abuse, self-harm, and then into addiction with kind of a lot of alcoholism and drug addiction, which I'm really proud and grateful to say that I have turned my back on for now, hopefully forever. But I'm always mindful of of those things, and I've got the tools and the kind of skills now to move forward and to keep moving forward in my life now. And to recognize when I might be slipping and to get the right help that I need. So I guess something for me is this is where my life's taken shape in the form of me becoming a healer now, and giving back to people and sharing for the traumas I went through, actually taking that now and making that a positive, and sharing that with people to almost be that person I could have done with when I was going through those tough times, and so it's really beautiful part to play, really.
Yeah.
That's it.
So good. So good. You and I connected through Marissa Peer doing a challenge with her together, and it was an extremely powerful experience. I don't know if you want to share anything about that. You don't have to if you don't want to, but for me, it was very eye-opening, just uncovering some blocks that were hiding behind the bushes, right? Or I saw them, but I just didn't recognize that they were as powerful as they were in my life, especially blocks having to do with money, since I experienced homelessness more than once in my life. Coming across Marissa and really uncovering those blocks of having to do with wealth was extremely powerful for me, and that has to do with the old story that I was telling. But yeah, that was a very, very powerful experience. I loved every minute of it, even though it was challenging. Was it very
Yeah.
challenging for you?
Well, if you remember, like I went during the challenge as well, I was actually in a relationship, which has since ended. So it was a huge change for me. But I also noticed, patterns I was repeating. And, we did a lot of regression, childhood regression. I had no idea it would entail those kind of things, and to actually go back to forming these money blocks where I was a baby in a kind of crib looking at my mum in hospital, feeling not good enough. Like how can you go back there, and see these things and forming these beliefs that you're not good enough? I just didn't think it would go back that far, But it makes sense, and I still think it unsettled a lot of things, that I've still got to deal with. It kind of I'm excited to kind of do it again, and now I know what to expect, because I think initially I thought it'd be a little bit glamorous, or do a little bit of gratitudes and I don't know, manifest your ideal man, or what your house will look like. And then when you start to kind of get into the nitty gritty, and it was like, wow, this is deep. It's really deep.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I feel the same way. Um, when I started the challenge, I initially wanted to focus on attracting my soulmate. And then I realized that that's not something I really wanted at the moment and really needed. And I mean, for whoever can relate to this, I felt like my inner being was pulling me in a different direction, where it was way more deeper, having to do with wealth and worthiness. And it's important to me to build this generational wealth, but I felt like that having that partner was going to lead me into wealth and this ultimate, how do I want to say it, this ultimate level of worthiness where I don't need that. I can actually do that on my own. And that's not trying to say like, oh, I'm an independent woman, I don't need no man, right? That's not anything like that. It's more about, it makes me feel so good to be able to do these things for myself. And I want to keep doing them. And it feels so good to be aware of those blocks and finally let go of them. That's been that was what I ultimately really learned from that experience. Yeah, and going through it again um, has been great as well. I can just reinforce what I learned the first time. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. No, it's very bizarre. I think one of my biggest realizations is how much emphasis I put around money, me not being worth it. And, actually there's a lot of tools where we're changing the word money to energy or love. And it's like, energy is the root of all evil, love is the root of all evil. You just wouldn't say that. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, when we're told and we're conditioned that money abundance is not accessible to us. It's greedy to want more, and it's not at all. It's an exchange of energy, and I'm seeing that more now in my professional work as an energy healer. It's very hard for me to charge for people for using my hands to heal and stuff, and it's like absolutely not. Like, it's the exchange of energy, and it's beautiful. We have to keep that energy kind of flowing. And someone going to work in an office, that's their energy has gone into creating this money. They're giving that money, which is their kind of token of energy, to us, as a healer, as a therapist, and then we pass that on to somebody else, and you keep the cycle going. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, so now that we are on the subject of you being a healer, what prompted that for you? What made you feel like yeah, you know what? I think this is what I want to do. Is it something that you always wanted to do growing up? Is it what you wanted to be when you were 10 years old, or how did that come about?
So I guess for me, I always knew I was a little bit weird. Well, no, I hate that word. I shouldn't have said that. I'm a little bit different, and actually, Marissa says this, you're not different, you're just unique, we're all very similar. And I was like, okay, so I need to change my mind. Change my story. Okay, where am I going with this one? No. But someone asked me actually a couple of weeks ago, oh, are you gifted or are you attuned? And I was like, well, I guess I was gifted because I always felt like I had, did you watch Matilda, the movie when you was a kid, and you're like, oh, I can make this happen. And it never happened. But I'd always be a little bit strange around graveyards and feel like I could pick up on kind of spirit energy and things, which I don't really deal with that energy anymore, but it was obviously something that was coming through. I always felt like I could talk to animals a little bit, or I had a little bit of a gift or intuition with animals, or I'd find injured animals and kind of want to nurse them back to health and stuff. So I guess I always had that side of things. But for me, the biggest, I guess, I look back now a lot of times in my life where I was very mentally ill and I was self-harming, suicide attempts and things, and I thought I should have died. There was something that intervened that stopped me, that just gave me this hope that my name was a different name then, but it was like, hold on, please hold on, because it gets better. I promise you it gets better. So then when I moved to Spain 2 years ago, I actually had something attached to me, like an entity, a kind of demon, I thought, so I went to a spiritual centre and I ended up having a spiritual cleansing. And I've had years and years of therapy. I never really dealt with energy and work as such. My best friend's a really talented healer, and she gave me some healing, and I was like, wow, yeah, I can feel this. But then, when I had this cleansing, I wish I could have recorded it in a way, because it was like an exorcism. I was shaking, I was throwing, voices were coming out. It was bizarre. I can't explain what happened still today, but I can understand it. I had so much energy blocked in my body, and I held on to so much trauma. And then I had two really amazing, beautiful women who are now my spiritual teachers that were cleansing me, that were spending time with me to push this through. So on the back of that, the entity disappeared. 3 days it followed me around the house. I was scared to go to sleep. I was scared to close my eyes. But then it disappeared. And I was like, there is something in this. There is something in this. So I stopped drinking. Got myself, I'd slipped a little bit. Alcohol's really cheap in Spain, so I took advantage. And the wine's pretty good. No, so but then I did like an angelic workshop connecting with your angels, and I started to feel these angelic energies coming in. It was really beautiful. And then my intuition's just grown. So then I got attuned to angelic Reiki energy, which is beautiful. Then I've researched more into kind of angels and what they mean to me. Then more recently, I've done like the Ursary Reiki, which is kind of, standard Reiki, to kind of just help with my grounding and my protection. And now my healing's gone on to another level now, where I kind of very much connect into source energy. And I'm just finding my modality. I think it's, we all have access to source energy. We are source. We're one. We're connected. So I'm acting as a channel to remind you that you can access this energy. We're taught so much that, we're kind of repressed or we're conditioned that you shouldn't imagine these things. You can't access energy because it's free. And, but actually we all have access to that. So I've seen my mission is to remind people that you can access this. We can meditate, we can access this. So that's where my journey as a healer has come into it. And I guess the mindfulness aspect mindfulness really changed me. When I was very mentally ill in my early 20s, I started to meditate, and that really helped me with my depression to a degree, you know, helped me stop drinking as much because I was becoming more mindful of what I was doing. But I don't think we labelled it as much then as mindfulness. You know, now I think it's a bit of a buzzword, and it pretty much means just staying in the moment and being present in the moment. You know, there's loads of ways of dealing with that. So I guess for me, mindfulness though as well, and you'll know, I'd be interested to get your view on this. I had dialectical behavioural therapy, so that actually incorporates kind of the psychology side and the mindfulness. Because mindfulness isn't good for everybody. You know, when I'm in deep depressions, I can't do deep meditation because it can be quite scary to be stuck in these places.
Right.
You know, so it's quite. I think it's something that I'm really interested to work with more and understand, because it's a buzzword, and if people aren't doing it properly, it can't. You know, it can be kind of detrimental to your healing process. You know.
Yeah. Oh man, you brought up a very. It just got me excited with that question about introspection and going inside when you are in your head and it's difficult to find your way out, right? And what I love about mindfulness is that not only are you going inside, but another component about mindfulness is about awareness. And awareness usually when, and you and I have talked about this, you know, like a million times, like probably like a million times a day, right? Mindfulness is the awareness of where you are presently. It's about being present. Usually when we're feeling depressed or we're even feeling anxious, we're thinking about the past or we're thinking about the future. We're not thinking about the present moment. In the present moment, we're safe. In the present moment, everything is okay. And I think that's what happens is when we get lost in the introspection, we get lost in going inside, and going inside will often take us back or take us forward. But with meditation, you're just being.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
of just being.
It's finding those things as well. You know, I think meditation is such a loaded term sometimes, but, you know, with some of my clients, I'm kind of saying is finding these pockets of time. It can be 30 seconds, it can be 2 minutes, it can be an hour. But, you know, even mindfulness eating, even taking a piece of chocolate, a piece of fruit, and just feeling the sensations through your body, you know, being grateful from where that food's come from, being grateful at the taste. You know, these are just little mindfulness techniques that is accessible to all of us. You know, but I think it's finding what works for each person, and not saying, you know, you should be doing an hour of yoga every day, because it doesn't work for everybody. It's finding your mindfulness, you know.
Yes. Oh, that's so powerful. Just especially since we live in a day where post-COVID, right? And social media is something that a lot, if not everyone, is taking participation in, and it's really hard not to compare ourselves to other people, what other people are going through. And so it's important to just be mindful of that, to be present and aware that we might often be comparing our insides to someone else's outsides. I love that. Just knowing what works for you and continuing to do what works for you. That's so powerful.
And there's no rule books on this healing journey. You know, there's no rule books in life as it is, but healing journey, we're living in a complete different time to anyone before. You know, we have so much more exposure to social media, to comparisons, and it's such a minefield out there, because you don't get the full story from anybody. You don't see what's happening behind the lens, kind of thing. You know, and there's such condition, you know, such pressures to be strong or to not be, I don't know, to keep up with things.
Yeah.
And like hopefully things like us today, you know, like people are just talking more honestly, you know.
Yes, being more, I don't want to say being okay, but yeah, being okay with being afraid, but allowing yourself to be vulnerable anyway. Like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to get into a story, uh, and a story that happened this past weekend. I don't usually talk about my dating life, my romantic life. And I wouldn't even call this a date. You already know about this because I talked to you about it over the weekend. But just for the people that are listening. So although I do talk about my personal story about things that happened to me as a child, growing up, and even as an adult, and what I experienced as a mom, and perpetuating that cycle of domestic violence and feeling unworthy, that's not a story that I tell because I use it to build rapport and to connect, but it's not a story that I continue to use or tell because it's an old story. And this episode is about letting go of our old stories. So I met up with someone over the weekend, and I picked the place. It was, I was having a really tough time, and I didn't understand why I was having a really tough time. So I picked a nature place because that always helps me whenever I'm able to just feel closer to source, feel closer to God, feel closer to nature. I seem to just reconnect easier with myself and within. So I picked this forest preserve, and I asked them to bring some coffee. And to be honest with you, I was a little afraid to ask him to bring coffee. I was like, hey, can you pick up the coffee? This is what I want. You can pick up for yourself, whatever. But in the back of my head, like, oh, what if he says no? Like, or something like that, right? But I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. And it's stepping into my greatness. This is what I continue to do. This is what my story has to do with just continuing to be confident. So I get there, and he is just this, geez, oh my gosh, like this really beautiful, gorgeous, tall glass of water. I want to quench myself in it repeatedly. He's like tall, and he has this ruggedness to him, and he knows how to dress, and he's not stepping out of this fancy car or anything, just really owning himself, and he's not even noticing that he's doing this, and he's walking to me. And we proceed to walk towards this pond, and we sit down and we start talking. Of course, we embrace, we hug, we go towards the pond, and we start talking, and he starts talking about his story and making himself vulnerable and talking about things that he's currently experiencing. He's also talking about things that have nothing to do with him, and really injecting himself into a story that it is personal to him. But while I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, like, you're missing this. You're missing this. You're missing, while you're telling this old story, you're completely missing what's in front of you. And I don't even mean me. I just mean the present moment. And he finishes telling his story of just everything that he went through years ago, and what he is going through now, and family things and stuff like that. And he's like, so what about you? Tell me about you. And he's waiting for me to share reciprocity, right? Waiting for me to share my personal journey of trauma and difficulties and challenges and hard times. And before I got into my old story, I took a deep breath, inhaled and exhaled, and I said, give me a second because I like to think before I speak. And he's like, sure, sure. And just kind of like this, a little bit of a puzzled look on his face. And his face is bearded. I forgot to add that. It's a beautiful face. So he's just looking at me, and I'm not looking at him. I'm looking around, and I said, what about me? So I am sitting in front of this pond, and people are walking by, people are fishing, and I'm sitting here in my favorite dress, enjoying the sun beaming on my face and my body. And it's a fall day and it's perfect. I love fall, perfect weather. And I have a hot guy sitting next to me. It feels really fucking good to be here. And he just looked around and he was a little puzzled by it. He was kind of surprised by what I was saying. And I didn't want to go into my old story. I just really wanted to be in the moment. And I said it, I was like, I just want to be here right now with you. I just want to be. I just want to be. And I did tell my story, and I told it, like I discussed this with you over the weekend because you're such a great support to me. I did tell my story of just being raped and being abused and feeling so much. And it's even making me feel emotional right now just thinking about it. I don't want to tell that story. I don't even want to get into it right now. My eyes are starting to water up just thinking about it. I never want to tell that story in that way again because I don't have to, because it feels so fucking good to be where I am right now and letting go of that. And I was going through a tough time that morning because I was seeking something from someone that wasn't for me, that wasn't ready to give that to me. They weren't ready for me. And my inner being was pulling me into a different direction, saying, this is not for you. There's so much, there's something way better and way bigger waiting for you. You just have to believe it. You have to let this go. And I was fighting with it, right? And I felt bad. I felt bad for needing this. I felt bad for wanting for someone to give me something. And I just had to come to the realization that I was asking the wrong person. You're always asking for too much when you're asking the wrong person. And you really helped walk me through that. You really helped me get to that place of like, holy fuck, holy shit. I was asking the wrong person, and this person is not ready for me. This person he's still telling old stories, and that's okay. That's where his journey is. That's where his journey has led him to. And I can let that go, and I can keep on like how I say, keep on trucking, keep on moving forward, just keep swimming, and just continue to focus on what makes me feel good. So thank you so much for that. Thank you
Nice, pleasure.
for being there for me, and being a part of my amazing support system. I will never get tired of saying how much I fucking love you, because I do.
Same.
But so what I want to ask you is, I don't know if you want to share any thoughts about that, just like being a part of a support system, of knowing, letting go of old stories and being okay with just staying. And has that ever happened to you where you were, how do I want to say it, where you felt some relief of letting go of an old story, letting go of old narrative, and where did that take you?
Yeah, I guess with my like I went from well, I'm split. I split with my partner like 2 weeks ago, and now I'm in a different country. And one of the last things he said to me is, "You're always going to be a fucking drug addict." I was like, "I've been taking drugs for years," but I know that that was to hurt me, and
Yeah.
that was a low blow. And I
Yes.
know it was nothing about me because there's no truth in that. I don't take drugs anymore. And I just went, you know what? I just like, fuck you. You know,
Yes.
but
Yes.
also I've allowed these people into my life. You know, I am updating my beliefs all the time, and I'm realizing I'm worth more than this. But I gave that ammunition in a way, or I allowed this person into my life, and I've learned my lesson now. You know, I'm not these things. I'm not these old stories. I'm not these old narratives. But I think for a while, why we're healing, it's very important to say these things. You know, because it does become part of our identity for a while we're healing. So it's not to say to anybody that's listening, don't go there, because it does, but it's very brave to
Yeah.
acknowledge these things and to have this story. But then there's a time when you got to release that story as well, because you've got to start living your next chapter. You know, where it becomes you're so in immersed in it, because that's all you're thinking about is your story. It's your conditioning. It's your whole life for a while. But then when you can step away from that and you can reframe, I love this term at the moment, reframing stuff. You know, yes, I was abused as a child. Do I feel any emotion connected to that? No, I can reframe that and say it makes me want to help other people that have been abused now. It makes me a stronger person. Led me to where I am today. That made me meet the most beautiful, amazing people in my life. That made me connect with people like you, where we can talk and we can talk on that level. You know, and I don't know. For me at the moment, like I don't know if the whole world is changing, or whether I'm sure we're up. I'm sure not we're leveling up necessarily, but I'm sure people are attracted to us because we have this truth and they feel connected. But why suddenly everyone feels it? And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it becomes such a topic of conversation. I was abused, you know, and it happens more than we can even believe, more than we can even contemplate. And I know so many people that will never whisper a word of it, you know, that it's happened to, but people are talking more freely, and that's what I mean. Is it just that other people are connecting with me now, and that's just a topic of conversation, or is the world more freely talking about this, and we're allowed to talk about our abuse more? I don't know. I don't know where I'm going off a little bit off topic with that, but
Oh, no. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about wellness. It's all relative.
yeah,
Keep going, please.
yeah, yeah. But no, this is it. You know, is I think going back to the stories thing is, yeah, I don't know. With regards to me, my story, I think my stories were always, you know, I was always had this kind of, not a badge of honor, but you know, I'm so strong that I would guess I thought I was strong, but also I thought I was weak, that I was talking about it. And here we go again. Oh, it's so boring. I've got to tell this whole story again. And you know, people go, "Oh, that's so sad," and you know, you was abused, or how horrible that is. And you know, I was an alcoholic, I was homeless, I was a drug addict. So it's just like, oh, it's so fucking boring now. You know, I'm so bored of telling this story, but I,
Yes.
I'm like, but it's part of me, and it does inspire people, it does motivate people. But I feel like I'm at this point now where I've earned my stripes in a way, and I've told that story, and I've fought those battles, and now I can stand there and go, I'm a fucking life coach. I'm a mindfulness coach. I'm an energy healer. I'm a survivor. I'm a thriver. I'm kick-ass. I'm amazing. I'm enough. You know, I don't need all that story behind me anymore, because I know I'm enough of who I am today. And those stories, that conditioning, those narratives, those behaviors kept me safe sometimes. You know, they kept me on a path that allowed me to become who I am today. So I'm so grateful of that. And actually, I was getting really irritable with people. My name changed last year, and people was going, well, what was your name before? And I was like, well, it doesn't matter. You know, I was getting really shitty about things like that. And it's like, well, you know, why is it? It's none of your business. But then I realized, actually, Aaron, who is me, was me, part of me, we are the same person, what led my life up until now. Now, you know, and then Arjuna is my spiritual name. And like, so they can coexist. I haven't got to kill Aaron off for Arjuna to exist. So Aaron's story, my story as Aaron, or the Aaron years or whatever, is still so important. So that's something I've been dealing with lately. Is it's important to acknowledge. I guess it's like being married. I've never been married, but you know, acknowledging you still had a married surname or something. It was still part of who you were. You know, it's still your story, and an important part of your story. You know, of your journey.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Preach.
Yeah.
Man, there's so much that you said that's so powerful. I don't even know where to begin. But it's just basically allowing. So, the work that I have done as a therapist, as a psychotherapist, is empowering victims. And in order to empower a victim, they first need to realize that they were a victim. So it is important to realize that you're a victim, and there are people that play like the victim card or stay in the victim role. That part of the journey is necessary. But then it gets boring. Then it becomes, once you are aware that you are stronger than that and you're a different person, this story of when you were victimized becomes empowering. And yeah, just what you said about like it becoming boring, that's exactly how I felt sitting at the pond. And like, I could tell you about my old story, but what we're living right now is so much more fucking exciting. Like, you're sitting next to me and I am radiating this energy that I want you to feel. And it's not even just about sexual tension or sexual energy. It's about that we both have these commonalities of spirituality and intelligence, emotional intelligence. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about those things that make us feel so good and get us revved up instead of our old stories. We're going to have time, and there's going to be opportunities where we can tell our old stories. But if you want me to show you that I can be vulnerable, I can do that too. I don't have a problem with that. But then that's all you're showing me. And then that's all there is. And then that's where you stay. And then that's where I'm going to have to leave. Because it's boring to me. I'm fucking done with that. I'm so ready to be happy. Oh, and it feels so good to be here. And I want to tell that story. I can tell the old story, right? But that it's only for empowerment. You really nailed it with it being boring, because it just feels so. But we have to. And here's the thing too, like I was depressed for almost all my life, and I felt anxious. I had PTSD almost all my life. And so I get it. Our brain makes this connection even with new information and takes it down the same path. And it's up to me to be aware of that and guide it to a different path. And so it takes practice to be here and to make wanting how I feel more important than anything else. And sometimes it's really hard. It's really hard to make that new connection. But it's just practice. It's just practice, right?
Yeah, of course. I think that's if anything, like you, I really loved this summer. I think it was Marissa, wasn't it? You know, the three kind of change, immediate change, a cumulative change, or retrospective change. And I
Yes.
think it's not, you know, when you sit here and you take stock of things and you're like, shit, things have really changed. You know,
Mhm.
even from the abundance challenge, things have massively changed for both of us. You
Yes.
know, that you couldn't even have seen coming.
No.
You,
I was just
you
like,
know?
yeah, it's just like filling me. Now you see how I look. Now you see like how I get whenever I'm sharing those messages with you. Like you're seeing it. Like
Mm,
I'm actually walking around when I'm sharing the messages with you. Like, oh my gosh, like I cannot wait to tell you what happened today. You know,
yeah.
that this is my life, and all I had to do was fucking believe in myself because it was here the whole time. But I was asking the wrong people for the wrong things.
Yeah.
I was asking people, hurt people, and I was asking people that were hurt and couldn't be there for themselves. They were pouring from an empty cup, and it was just difficult for me to feel worthy when there were so many other people around me that were hurt as well, and everyone has their own journey. So it's just this place of like even though I was afraid to reach out to different people because I didn't know them, I had to take that chance in making myself vulnerable, and being okay with asking for someone else for support and help, and being okay with rejection. Rejection is just, redirection, right? Yeah, I can go on for hours. I'll stop right there because I want to I want to give
Hmm.
you time to speak too, because I love hearing you speak, and the things that you say are so powerful to me.
Hmm. No, it's definitely a journey.
Mhm.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. Um, I don't know where we are with time. Are we good with time? um, I wanted to ask, so I love, so the healing that I feel that I do with you is a lot of, I do feel it does have a lot to do with energy, and I do feel it has a lot to do with the energy you put behind the words that you use. I believe in honest vocabulary. Um, is that something that you do intentional, or just like comes out that way, or do you have to get in like the flow state, or how does that work for you?
I think for me, like, I don't think we ever stop learning, we ever stop growing. And I think, you know, by all accounts and purposes, people that I meet, spiritual and all this kind of, you know, that tell me you're a very young energy, you know, very new healer, and and all, you're so gifted and you're so lucky to have this at such a young age. And it's like, oh, okay. But it's having that self belief, and it's the more I'm exploring who I am and releasing my conditioning. And you know, I was a like very mischievous. I've never, you know, I've made mistakes. I've been in abusive relationships. I've been, you know, it's acknowledging my part in things and kind of making peace with myself, um, and allowing myself to shine now. You know, and there's a lot of things where I get like I can start talking, or when I start healing or start, and I'm like, I'm the last to know how amazing those things are sometimes. You know, some of my healings that, well, all of them, I'm gonna say it, all of my healings, people, they're very surprised, and I'm surprised, you know, of how of what they're feeling, of the sensations. And I think there's a lot of, I think as I'm growing and I'm evolving as a healer, I don't think that ever stops. You know, people are, I'm just amazed. And this is what I love about finding my modality of healing now, is that I'm the channel. I'm not taking anything and giving anything to you. I'm unlocking things. You're unlocking things within yourself by accessing this. There's no coincidences. The universe leads us together, you know, because I'm just here to remind you that you have access to this healing, to this energy. And I think it's what I'm starting to find with my words now, and how I'm talking about things. And when I get passionate about something, and it's like almost this freedom I'm finding in myself now of just, coming to Istanbul and leaving. My ex finished with me, but I was like, I just kept going. I kept walking, and I haven't looked back, because I don't have to, because I'm not doubting myself anymore. Like, I know that I have all of this inside me, and I was putting so much energy into other people that didn't deserve that energy because I was so scared of losing them, and I've lost them anyway. So it's like, you weren't meant to be there. You really weren't meant to be there. So the more I'm exploring myself and evolving into myself, the more I'm falling, and I can say that for one of the first times in my life, the more I'm falling in love with myself. And I was actually just doing this. I've been writing a lot recently about, am I losing my mind or am I finding my freedom? And I'm like, is there any difference between those two things? In losing my mind, I'm finding my freedom, or in finding my freedom, I'm losing my mind, because I'm losing all the conditioning, I'm losing all the past shit, the stories, the narratives, the behaviors, the addictions, it's all going. And that's quite scary. Like, I'm doing another, so they, if we all vibrate high, I'm doing this Aaron Doherty kind of thing, and it's, we'll all naturally vibrate high. That is our birthright. That is who we are as source energy, and is having this human existence. We are naturally high vibration. So we attach all this shit, and we pull ourselves down. So it's not about necessarily learning anything. It's learning to let go of things so we can float back up. And it's like, when you start to pick around in that and go, oh, I read these old stories, or, I look at I've got my journal right here. I'll show you. These are all labels I've given myself. There's at least 200 there of labels I've assigned to myself over the years. You're fat, you're thin, you're ugly, you're disgusting, you're a slag, you're dirty, like all these things that I've said to myself, and they're still there in my mind. And it's like, some of them are so contradictory. But it's kind of things that I've attached, and now I'm releasing. I'm going, how can you be fat and thin at the same time? It's because so and so called me fat, or it's because so and so called me thin, and it's just like, I can let go of this shit. I'm the only one that's holding on to this stuff. These people who have hurt me, who have abused me in the past, don't know that I'm still thinking about it. So I'm the only one that's keeping that alive.
Yes.
So it's time to let go. So
yes. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Oh my gosh, that just made me think of, like, so when I was sitting there at the pond, when I was sitting there at the pond, the old Lupita would have been like, no, let's continue to play the victim, because we really want to keep him. We don't want to lose him, right? He's so beautiful. He's emotionally intelligent, and he is blah, blah, blah in business, and blah, blah, blah this, and just all of these fears of losing. All of these fears of losing this person. But I'm so glad that I got to this place where I believed in myself so much, like, no, I'm okay. I can let it go. And there was a little bit of tension there of me not wanting to let go. I couldn't let go just yet, but finally when I did, oh my gosh, just exactly what you said, I was able to get to this higher frequency and really float, because there was nothing weighing me down. Oh yeah. Gosh, so good. So to end this this talk today, I'm so excited to have been able to talk with you today.
Yeah, me too.
Is there anything that any final words you want to share with anyone out there? Anything you want to say to anyone, or, maybe a phrase or slogan you like to use for yourself?
Yeah. I guess one of my things at the moment just came to me then for some reason was just like, I wish you well and I wish you away. And I think that came through in a meditation. I can't remember who it was. But I think that's something that's really resonating with me lately is just, you know, for a lot of these things, I wish you well and I wish you away. And that forgiveness and that process of just letting things go. But yeah, I think it's been really, really interesting actually, just to sit here and reflect with you and finally see each other kind of face to face, you know. But to reflect even on our journey and our friendship that's been so recent, but to see how super that is, and to see, you know, to see, I don't know, I'm so excited for our journey and our kind of, I know we'll always be part of each other's lives now. And kind of see those things learn and grow. And I think even seeing this, you know, is that the world is a different place now. So I'd find it like, just connect, you know, connect with each other, reach out to us, like reach out to one another, start talking, I think vulnerability is not necessarily to me sharing my story anymore. It's allowing myself to be and to just be with people without filling those voids and filling those stories and trying to be something in some kind of condition, and just allowing myself to be in the moment. And yeah, that's me really.
That's thank you so much. That yeah, that's good. Letting go and just be. So where can people reach you or find you if they are interested in your healing, in your energy healing, in your mindfulness coaching? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is at themindfulness.coach, or my personal is becoming Arjuna. So either of those Instagrams, or hello at themindfulness.coach as well, which is my email address. And my website is being produced at the moment, so I'm getting there. It needs to hold me accountable.
Yeah. It's exciting. I love it.
It's so exciting. I think this is what, you know, with just everything's growing and evolving every day. And I just feel as I'm producing content, you'll know, it's like that I'm shifting to go, oh, okay, this is happening. So it's really, I'm just trying to represent myself in kind of like a website and stuff of who I am. So that's coming soon.
I love that. The web. Yeah. And thank you to everyone who tuned in, listening, watching. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate your energy. Last words from myself is that all it takes is you and believing. You've always been enough. Thank you so much again. Until next time, this is Lupita on Fire. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.